So over the past couple of days, there was this brewing beef between Stephen A. Smith and Russell Westbrook. Stephen A. basically said that Russell Westbrook's stats don't matter because he hasn't won a championship, and his legacy is going to be just that. Westbrook answered back and said, my legacy is going to be what I do to help the community and all this other stuff. So this is a question for you guys. What will Russell Westbrook's legacy be? And in my opinion, he's a great stats guy. You know, he's averaging a triple-double, 21, 10, and 10 right now. He's averaged a triple-double in 4 of the last 5 years, but he's not a winner. And you know, the thing about Russell Westbrook, and I'll just say it outright, him averaging triple-doubles has made everybody numb to triple-doubles now. Yeah. Because he's been averaging them. He's just made everybody numb to it. And I'm not trying to discredit what Russell Westbrook does because what he does is truly special. But it's not even about being a champion, because Stephen A. was just pointing at the fact that he hasn't won a championship. For me, it's the fact that you haven't been out the first round, and the fact that when you have been in the playoffs, you have played like garbage. You look at when he won MVP, he averaged 37, 11, and 11 against Houston. They lost in 5.
He put his heart on that court.
That's a fact. But then he shot 39% from the field.
Yeah.
He shot 26% from 3.
Yeah.
He averaged 6 turnovers per game.
Yeah.
So you take those 6 turnovers from that 11 assists, he's averaging 5 assists. You know, for every assist he's getting a turnover. That's Russell Westbrook. 2017 with PG, he averaged 29, 12, and 7. Pretty good series. He shot 40% from the field and 36% from 3, but averaged 5 turnovers per game, and he averaged 7 assists in that series. Then his last year in OKC, he averaged 23, 8, and 12, and shot 36% from the field and 32% from the 3. When that series, you were trying to trash talk Dame the entire time, and he
against LA.
Yes, and he completely outplays you. Now I'm talking about OKC versus
LA.
Blazers.
He did it against LA too.
Yes.
When he waved goodbye.
Yes, and then versus LA,
he was talking crazy.
Russell Westbrook was the reason the Rockets got gentlemen swept against the Lakers. He was the reason. They were leaving
played him like Bledsoe.
They were leaving him wide open. I mean, Russell Westbrook was at the 3-point line, and Anthony Davis was getting a soda at McDonald's. That's how open he was leaving Russell Westbrook that entire series. He shot 24% from 3, and Harden literally was getting double teamed at half court because they were leaving Russell Westbrook wide open and daring him to shoot. It's not about how good Russell Westbrook is. We know he's a great player, but in the playoffs, he doesn't play good. He drops off in the playoffs tremendously. Harden got slandered against LA. He got slandered for that Lakers series when he averaged 30 and he was efficient. And Russell Westbrook has people who watch the game, and I was a Rockets fan at the time. I was tight. I was tight that Russell Westbrook was that bad. But ultimately, Russ's legacy is in basketball, at least, because this is not your legacy as a human being.
Anybody who's in the NBA giving back to the community is going to have a crazy legacy.
This is his legacy in terms of basketball. He is going to be known as a player who put up the most meaningless stats of all time. And yes, he's phenomenal. He's a great player. But ultimately, you get judged off of winning. And Russ hasn't won. It's not even about the championship. It's just about getting out of the first round. And he hasn't done that. Like I said, he's great. But in an era where social media is dominating the narrative, mainstream sports is dominating the narrative, having a ring is more important than ever.
Yeah.
In terms of judging a player. You know, I'm mentioning him again, Harden. I mention him because if he doesn't retire with the ring, he's going to be the best player to never win a ring of all time, up there with Karl Malone and Charles Barkley. But same thing with Harden. He gets slandered to this day because he has not won a championship. Russell Westbrook, if he doesn't win, not even a championship, but if he doesn't start winning and leading teams and showing he can be a good mentor.
And where is that going to happen?
Exactly. He wanted to leave the Rockets to go and run his show. Not to compete for a championship, just to run his show and stat his pads more. And he went to Washington, and Washington is probably one of the worst teams in the NBA right now. So because of that, you question whether Russell Westbrook really wants to win a championship or even wants to make a deep playoff run. And to this point, it just seems like even though he has these triple doubles, yes, they're phenomenal. they're meaningless.
Yeah. Not to cut you off, but just because what you just said, I think it goes along perfectly with it. One, I think he's going to go down with Charles Barkley in that great player that just never got over the hump category. Like, I don't even think he'll be considered like John Stockton and Karl Malone.
I don't even think Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one.
But what I wanted to say is, I don't know if you guys heard Stephen A. Smith's response to Nina and Russell Westbrook. He put out like a 9-minute video. I listened to the whole thing, and it was actually like on point. I don't normally agree with Stephen A., but I agree with everything he said, because he said like they acted like it was some personal attack on Russell Westbrook, but at the end of the day, like that's Stephen A.'s job to talk about what he does on a basketball court, just like it's Russell Westbrook's job to go out and play basketball. So none of this is like personal attacks at Russell Westbrook. He seems to be a great dude, a great father, great for the community, but when it comes to basketball, we expect him to be a champion because he is a great player. You get what I'm saying? Like, we hold him to that standard, and we judge him like with that bar set. Like, we raise that bar that high for him because what he does with the triple doubles and what he does with the stats. He puts up those great numbers, so you want him to be a champion. And I think that's almost complimentary to him as a player. Like, if he wasn't good, you wouldn't be talking about, is he a champion or not? But since he has reached that level and he's been that guy to set the bar statistically, you expect more out of him, and he hasn't delivered on that.
The thing about me, before you go, Riff, sorry to cut you off, but the thing about me is that what I think, I've never expected Russell Westbrook to be a champion. Just his game is not championship point guard like game. The poise, the recklessness he plays with doesn't scream championship point guard.
So when you were screaming Rockets were going to win a chip last year,
that's because of James Harden.
All right, just making
and
sure.
You know it's because of James Harden.
I'm just making sure we get that out the way. Okay.
This is the thing. I've never expected Russell Westbrook to be a champion. The reason why I'm judging him is off of his decisions to try and play meaningful basketball, and that's in the playoffs. The same thing happened with Melo. When Melo decided to stay with the Knicks instead of going to Chicago, he got slandered because why would you stay with the Knicks who aren't in a good situation instead of going to Chicago, who can win now?
Prime D Rose.
Carmelo got slandered for that. And Russell Westbrook, you know you're declining. You instead of wanting to go to a team and take a lesser role and actually play meaningful basketball, you want to go to a team like Washington and just have great stats. And I think that's the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Chris Paul, I know Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul have gotten compared to each other. The difference with Chris Paul is that he's, in every situation he's been in, has made an impact on winning and has really developed the younger players. You look at Chris Paul in Houston. Houston almost beat the juggernaut Warriors. You look at Chris Paul in OKC. Developed those young players nicely. They went to the playoffs. You look at Phoenix now. They're the second seed in the West. Who would have thought they would have been the second seed? I thought highest they were going to be was third. Right now they're second. So Chris Paul has had an impact on winning at an older age, whereas Westbrook, it seems like more and more all he does really care about is inflating his stats.
You know, I'm glad you watched that Stephen A. Smith because it was interesting. And, like, that's one of the problems I've had with people today, like athletes now. They're very sensitive to what these media men said, and that's their job. Their job is to, like, even us, we have to judge what you do in that basketball court. We're not coming at you. Russell Westbrook does right for the community. He does right for all these kids. We're not coming at you on that level. But in terms of a basketball player and what you do in the basketball court, that's what we do. And I just feel like with him saying that, like, his legacy was just making it into the league. No, you were a lottery pick. You were projected to be this type of great player. You were projected to be this stud. When you won MVP, you were on top of the mountain. We were thinking of you like some people were saying you were better than point guards that had their careers meant more than yours. So when you talk about Chris Paul, yeah, I think like I would put him in that category in terms of guys who don't make it far in the playoffs. But in terms of meaningful basketball, Chris Paul has obviously impacted the game way more than Russell Westbrook. Just they haven't gotten as far in the playoffs. They haven't won as much. But Westbrook, you know, shout out. He is going to go down as the top 10 point guard ever. You know, so that's a good thing. His legacy is forever going to be tarnished because he doesn't have a ring, and that's the same with Harden, Charles Barkley. I wouldn't put him in the Harden, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, because those guys, they played meaningful basketball regardless if they didn't win or not. they got deep into the playoffs. Harden has been deep into the playoffs. Stockton and Malone. Charles Barkley went to a final, so he's been deep. I just think with Westbrook, you know, we want to say he's the Oscar Robertson of our era, but Oscar Robertson, you know, he won. So I think Westbrook's telling us he wants to go there and run his show. I think that told us all we needed to know about Russell Westbrook. He wants to win on his terms, and that's the stubbornness of him. He's going to end up like the Melo of our generation, a guy who wants to do it.
Same generation, though.
Yeah, like a guy who wants to do it his way, his only way, and he doesn't see it any other way, and I think that's what's going to haunt him forever.
Yeah, and you kind of hit on something there that I think was interesting. Like Stephen A. said at the end of what he was saying, he's also from the trenches. Like if you've heard Stephen A.'s story, like he came up from nothing.
That's
and,
hilarious.
And he turned himself like when you look at what he's doing in his field, like he's a champion in his field. And he said, I could have very easily gotten to ESPN, rested on my laurels. The fact that I've
he's the highest paid, right?
Yeah, and he said like I could have just sat here and said, I don't care about ratings because I'm paying for my family. I'm making sure my family is well off, and that's my legacy. But like when you're like he's still out here trying to get those ratings, and that's why the people at ESPN love him. If you're Russell Westbrook, like what do you think the general manager of the Wizard is thinking? Like looking at his best player, saying that he doesn't really care about winning championships because his legacy is that he's like improved.
I think
his
he said.
I just want to put.
You get what I'm saying?
I just want to put this into context. What Russell Westbrook said, right? It's like if I'm an engineer and I'm working on a structure and designing a blueprint, the building collapses, and somebody's like, "You did such a shitty job at designing this blueprint. I expect more out of you because you're my top engineer." And I'm like,
"You still paid me."
But yo, I still treat my wife right. I still hang out with my kids. I'm charitable. Yeah. So why does it matter that I fucking fucked up this building? So that's the thing is like, yes, whatever you are as a person, you are, but we're not talking about that. We judge everybody off of their profession because we don't really know your personal life.
Yeah. If he had come out and said something about Russell Westbrook as a person, that's a different story.
I'm going to be 100 with you. We don't care about your personal life because it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about you as a basketball player.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm 100% sure you're probably a good man. You take care of your community. That's great. Like, in terms of a humanitarian, that's a different conversation than what we're talking about.
Stephen A. doesn't get paid to talk about that.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's not his job. His job is to talk about you in the basketball court. And the fact that you're so sensitive too, I feel like that answer was a get back because he felt hurt about what.
Like a defense
mechanism. He felt hurt about what Stephen A. Smith. You care about winning a championship. You went on record and said, "I want to win a championship more than anything." So everybody walks into the league wanting to win an NBA championship. You don't walk in say, "I just want to take care of my family." Probably the guys who go to college for free, that's the guys who say that. But in terms of the NBA, the guys walk in, they want to win an NBA championship. And with him being at that high level top 10, some people even said he was a top 5 player, but being at that high level player, that high caliber player, you definitely wanted to win a championship. And the fact that you said that as a defense mechanism because Stephen A. Smith came for you as a basketball player is messed up because it's the truth. You haven't, aside from that MVP, you haven't done anything of real me. I mean, you broke the first time you got a triple double. We was like, all right,
And you know what's
crazy.
What I don't like the most. What people say. This is just me being nitpicky. This is just my personal opinion. But I hate whenever people debate basketball. There are always those people like, just enjoy the game for what it is. We can love every player. We can love Harden. We can love Westbrook. We can love Luka. Like. Nah, bro.
That's the fun of the competition.
Yes, the fun about it is debating these players. And not only that, just because these guys are great at basketball does not mean they are the void of criticism. You can still criticize them because they are not perfect. Every single great player has a flaw. Even Skip Bayless has made a living criticizing LeBron. He's the most perfect basketball player probably has ever played a game. So obviously you can always criticize these guys on some level because even Skip, for his like crazy takes that he has, when he talks about LeBron, he always backs up his points. He always uses hard statistics.
It may be wrong, but
evidence.
He be coming with some facts.
Yes, to back up his point. So even him, like, there is a argument for why you can criticize this guy. So that's why I just don't agree with that at all. Just love every player and enjoy basketball. I do enjoy basketball, but that doesn't mean I can't say, oh, this guy needs to get better at this and oh, this and that. Yes, like I just don't think that makes much sense.
If we didn't want to debate and criticize, we wouldn't keep score. We would just have them go out, play 48 minutes, and high five at the end, and then go to the locker room. You know what I'm saying? Like the reason it's so fun is because of the competition, and the competition breeds discussion and criticism, and that's part of the career. You know that when you sign up for it, like just like we know signing up for the podcast, we're gonna get negative comments on stuff. That's just the fact of the matter. Nobody's gonna agree with everything you do. When you sign up to play NBA basketball, part of it is knowing that people are going to hate you, and that's just what it is. Like, you got to get used to that.
Yeah, and that's why But ultimately, I don't think Russell Westbrook will ever win a championship.
I mean, I'm going on
His
record.
ship has sailed.
I've gone on record and I've said I always used to say it. Him and Harden were the two guys I believed would never win the championship.
Harden will though.
Well, yeah, now because the Nets, but I always felt those were the two guys I felt like would never win a championship, and I'm going to stand on that until I'm obviously corrected.
But I think Harden always had a better chance to.
Oh, 100%.
Russell Westbrook's game style just doesn't.
He would have to title
make it happen.
He would have to title hop.
Yeah,
at some point late in.
I mean, we've been waiting on
career.
Russell Westbrook to stop being so stubborn since he was 23.
Yeah.
Right now he's what, 30,
and
33? Like, we've been waiting on this for a long time.
And that led KD out of town, realistically, when you think about it. Like
yeah, he left because of Westbrook
yeah.
pretty much, and because they didn't have much shooters or
he couldn't
shot
win with
creators.
he couldn't win with those cats.